with two very simple stories of the great Sufi mystic Rumi. But in his writings, Rumi has said, "When you read my poems and my stories, be careful to separate the wheat from the chaff." Now, these two simple stories have not been told before, and for a specific reason. And perhaps it's up to you to find out what that reason is. But there's no doubt that each and every one of you will recognize the import of those stories and the moment that it represents for us. The first story is about an old wolf. He was old, and he lived in a small valley at the foot of a mountain. But in that valley there was very little to eat. All of the prey had been disposed of, and there was little for him to forage and to find to eat. But he knew that up on the mountain there were lots of animals, lots of prey, plenty of food. But the mountain was also inhabited by a great lion, a fearsome beast. But the hunger of the wolf drove him to make a plan. So he sought out his friend the fox. But the fox was lean and also very hungry, and the fox had a mate and a few pups that didn't even have enough energy to cavort together because they had not enough food to sustain them. So the wolf went to the fox and laid out his plan to him. "Let's go to the lion and beg the lion to help us to find food on the mountain. And if we act subservient enough, then perhaps the lion will help us to find sustenance." So this is indeed what they did. The fox was in desperate straits. He didn't have enough food to feed his family. So the wolf and the fox went off to the great lion. After making obeisances in front of him, they explained that there was little food for them in the valley, and could they get the assistance of the lion to find some prey up on the mountainside. Well, the great lion stood up and yawned, and of course the lion knew that he didn't need the help of any other creatures to get food for himself, but he was having a moment of largesse, so he agreed that he would go with the wolf and the fox up the mountain to find prey. So when they went up the mountain, of course the wolf, with his very sharp nose, was able to hunt out the prey, and the fox, which was very wily and quick, even though he was hungry, was able to lure them out. And of course the great lion, with just a swipe of his paws, was able to annihilate the creatures. And between them they managed to bring down a great bullock, a huge boar, and a goat. Well, they dragged their prey down to the bottom of the mountain, and then the lion said to the wolf and the fox, "Now, tell me," he said to the wolf first of all, "how shall we divide up this prey?" Oh, the wolf thought to himself, "Ah, yes, that's very easy," and he said to the lion, "Well, the bullock, the biggest animal, is yours, and the boar is mine, and the goat is for the fox." Well, the lion stood up. With a great swipe of his paw, he almost decapitated the wolf and then killed him in front of the eyes of the very horrified fox. Well, then the lion turned to the fox and said, "Tell me, how should we divide up this prey?" The fox was shaking in his boots with fear, having seen the fate of the wolf, because when the wolf had said that the bullock should go to the lion and the boar should go to him, and he thought that that was a pretty good division. But in that moment, the fox had a stroke of insight. And he said, "Oh, great and most powerful King of all things, the bullock is your breakfast, the boar is your lunch, and the goat is your supper. None of these creatures would have been able to be caught without you. You are supreme. All belongs to you." The lion stood up and said, "Well, since you are me and I am you, all of this prey is yours." The fox, in his heart, was so grateful for the wolf and the demonstration that allowed him to have his stroke of insight and recognition, which brought about the awareness and knowledge which enabled him to, in the end, finish up with the abundance of what it is that had been caught. This is the first of Rumi's great stories. The second story is about a man who was lying under a tree having an afternoon siesta, when all of a sudden he felt a great pain across his face. And when he woke up with a start, he saw a horseman with a whip in his hand, and the horseman was whipping him, whipping his face, whipping his back, until he stood up staggering. Why are you doing this to me?" And he started to run, and the horseman started to chase him and beat him, whip him, until he was utterly and totally exhausted, falling, begging, why were you doing it? What have I done? I don't even know you. What have you done to me? What are you doing to me? But the whipping horseman was relentless. He drove the poor man until he came to a great tree, and under the tree there were a number of rotten apples, and he forced the man with his beatings, with his sword, to eat the apples, eat the rotten apples, eat, until the man was gorged. And then the horseman whipped him some more, so he ran until they came to a stream, and the horseman forced the man to bend over and drink, until finally the man was so engorged, when he got up, he vomited the contents of the fluid and the apples of his stomach. And the man, kneeling, said to the horseman, please tell me, I'm willing to die, but tell me, what have I done to deserve this?" The horseman with his sword pointed to the vomit that lay on the ground, and there amongst it was a writhing snake, hissing, its forked tongue coming in and out. And the horseman said, "This is why I beat you." And the man said, "But why didn't you just tell me, I would have done what..." The horseman said, "If I had have told you, you would have died of fright, and that would be the greatest suffering. This has been the lesser suffering." The man then, still on his knees, looked up at the horseman and said, "Thank you. Thank you for the great blessing of the beating. Thank you for the great blessing of the suffering. Thank you for beating me until I was awake. These two simple stories, never told before, have very great import for us, especially at this time. I don't believe that any more needs to be said for the moment, but all of us, personally, globally, universally, know the meaning of suffering now. We've experienced it at all levels. What meaning does it have? What its purpose is contained in these stories. Not about a God or a universal being or an overriding power, but something else that we have the opportunity to experience and know and share. But first, to understand the meaning of these stories allows us to take that step. Suffering. As the Buddhists say, life is suffering. For what purpose? For what reason? We have yet to experience and to share.